The US suddenly made a demand to South Korea to restrain the development of China's shipbuilding industry, which left South Korea completely stunned. How can a former defeated rival of China stop it? Recently, as talks about reciprocal tariffs have been ongoing, South Korea approached the US for negotiations. However, during the talks, the US made a request that put South Korea in a difficult position. According to Yonhap News and other media, the South Korean government revealed that the US proposed that Korea-US cooperation should be based on jointly containing China. The most representative area is the shipbuilding industry. The US roughly means to develop the shipbuilding industry together with South Korea, jointly building ships, but on the condition that South Korea reduces its use of Chinese raw materials to achieve the goal of containing China. South Korean officials pointed out that the US request is not simply about industrial cooperation. They will approach it from an overall strategic perspective and study the specific cooperation plan proposed by the US. We know that since Trump took office, fearing China's development in shipbuilding, he has used many underhanded tactics. First, he announced high port docking fees on ships operated or owned by Chinese shipbuilding companies. Second, he planned to impose a 100% tariff on port equipment made in China. Now, they're turning to South Korea, attempting to jointly suppress the development of China's shipbuilding industry. But will this tactic work? The answer is obviously no. In fact, the two plans previously announced by the Trump administration also face strong opposition from all sides. After years of development, over 80% of the world's dry cargo ships are now made in China. At the same time, Chinese-owned ships account for more than 19% of the global commercial fleet and control 95% of container shipping. According to Trump's two plans above, it would cost U.S. shipping companies billions of extra dollars, and these costs would ultimately be passed on to American companies and consumers. The World Shipping Council stated at the time that if Trump's plan were implemented, more than 90% of the world's ships would have to pay these fees. This shows that whether China's shipbuilding industry can be suppressed is no longer something a policy or two from Trump can decide. China has cultivated its shipbuilding industry for years and holds an irreplaceable position in the industrial and supply chains. If Trump insists on doing this, it will only cause chaos in the global shipping industry. Moreover, even the former shipbuilding powerhouse South Korea has already been surpassed by China. According to data from outlets like Observer, 2010 was a key turning point for China's shipbuilding industry. That year, China surpassed South Korea for the first time to join the ranks of the world's top shipbuilders. But that number one position wasn't yet stable. In the next decade, China and South Korea continued to compete, with victories alternating until 2021, when China began to gradually widen the gap. In 2024, Chinese companies held 74.7% of new ship orders, while South Korea held 17%, meaning China finally reshaped the global shipbuilding landscape and completely crushed South Korea. This memory is likely still vivid for South Korea. So looking back at the US request, if South Korea were capable, it wouldn't have been so thoroughly beaten by China. As the leader of the global industrial chain, China is still the largest producer of supporting equipment for ships. Korean companies often purchase Chinese products with better cost performance to reduce costs. Also, for the electronic equipment and alloy materials needed for high-end shipbuilding, South Korea relies on rare earth imports from China. The US demand for South Korea to reduce the use of Chinese raw materials would clearly cause cost issues. South Korea has already been surpassed by China in shipbuilding. If costs become a problem again, how can they compete with China? Therefore, from any perspective, the US request is unrealistic. South Korea has not dared to respond strongly so far. Our Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson has also responded to this matter. At the regular press conference on July 11th, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning once again emphasized that agreements and negotiations between the US and any country should not harm the interests of third parties. This statement was also a kind of warning to South Korea. We have already emphasized this many times. So the issue is not just whether South Korea can do it, but if it agrees to the US request, it will inevitably damage the hard-won easing of China-South Korea relations. This would also violate the promise made by President Lee Jae-myung after taking office to improve relations with China. The US trying to rope in South Korea to jointly contain China's shipbuilding industry not only overestimates its own influence, but also underestimates the realities of the global supply chain. China's shipbuilding industry has already established itself through scale advantages, technological breakthroughs, and a complete supply chain. If South Korea blindly follows the US in decoupling and cutting ties, it will only further weaken its own competitiveness and even destroy the foundation of China-South Korea economic and trade cooperation. The choice facing the Lee Jae-myung administration is not simply a matter of picking sides, but a strategic decision concerning South Korea's economic future. China is not only South Korea's largest trading partner, but also the rule setter in the global shipbuilding industry. If South Korea yields to US pressure, it will not only fail to shake China's position, but may become a victim in the game between major powers.